everyone, and welcome back to AWS OnAir. We are live at reInvent in Las Vegas. We are winding down the last couple of hours of our expo hall here. Adrian, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Jasmine. Always good to hang out on the set with you. This is like my second reInvent working with you, and you know what? It just keeps getting better and better.
Yes, that's what I like to hear. Tell the folks who you are.
Do I have to?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Adrian San Miguel. I'm a principal partner enterprise architect here at AWS, and much like Jasmine, I hang out on the partner side of the house and help them get things done with our customers. But today, I understand we have a very special guest to talk about something that just got released, or just got pre-announced, sorry.
Exactly. So who do we have here?
So Isaac Cohen, I work for Poolside. So excited to be here. I run Solutions Engineering Americas.
Oh.
Hey everyone, I'm Zenny, and I'm a senior product manager with Bedrock, and I focus on a lot of the third-party models.
Yeah. What is Poolside? You just said Poolside. We're the first time we're hearing that. You know, it's coming up on wintertime, so a lot of us are not sitting around Poolside. But you know, what's this mean? And Bedrock, come on.
Yeah, so I can tell you, I do definitely want to be in a pool right now. So at Poolside, we've developed large language models, so LLMs, specific to software development.
Interesting.
So fine-tuned on your data and on AWS Bedrock.
Awesome. So that leads me to like the natural curious question here. So I would love to hear how you think that going about it in this way, that Poolside is going to help enable the next generation of AI for software engineering. It sounds like a pretty amazing concept.
You know, when we look at the last couple of years, 3 years ago, Gen AI, that's really where it started.
Yeah.
And you start to see coding assistance. But over the last 3 years, we see the developer experience improve, but the models itself, we're still sort of in that same zone of coding assistance. Well, at Poolside, we see a future where AI starts to act like a junior developer, like a senior developer. Even at some point, humans directing the AI for an entire product development team. Well, the question that we've been asking is, how do we start to get there? And we don't see this happening with the models out there. For this to occur, we need to have a domain-specific model, a model created specifically for software development. And so that's exactly what we've been doing. We actually have two models today, 1.1 Malibu, so one for code completion, one for chat, available within your IDEs, IntelliJ, VS Code, Visual Studio, and whatnot.
Got it. So what's special about Poolside, and what do you believe will, be able to make this jump in capabilities for our customers?
So as we were saying beforehand, the large language model, the LLMs that we create are specific to software development. That means we can make very different architectural decisions than any other models. In one acronym, RLCEF, reinforcement learning via code execution feedback.
Wow.
I know.
That's a lot of words.
It's a mouthful. If I can explain that for a second.
Yeah, please.
Pretty much the way it works is whenever I write a line of code, before I write that line of code, I'm thinking about a couple of things. I'm thinking about whether that code is going to compile, whether it's going to pass unit tests, whether it's secure. Well, the way I learned how to do that was by actually coding. Like that's the way I, as a developer, learned how to code. Well, this is what we're having Poolside do. We're having Poolside be a developer, coding itself. Instead of just reading all the textbooks, we like to say, instead of just reading about code, reading all the textbooks on code, we need to train our models to code. And so this is the unique differentiator. This is really our secret sauce that we've been using.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it all sounds pretty fantastic, and chat would love to hear from you, to have you chime in on what you think about this. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to preempt you and understand exactly the next question you're going to ask. You mentioned security. So I would love to hear your idea and how you view Poolside overall and how you think about security.
So I'll actually take that one because something we're doing with Poolside, which is super exciting, is that, this partnership with Bedrock, security is kind of our top priority.
Yep.
So from just the start to the finish, everything that we've built and thought about has been security oriented. So when you launch Poolside, you actually deploy this within your own VPC, which is really cool because that means that all of your data is secured. When you fine tune on Bedrock, none of that data is actually shared with Poolside. I'm sorry. So Poolside can't actually use any of that data to train their base models. We create a private copy of the base model to then fine-tune for your own domain-specific use.
Oh. What does that mean? How are software developers using this?
I mean, it just means that these models, once fine-tuned, actually have awareness of the coding patterns and kind of your domain, like your specific like language and all of that. And so it's like tailored towards the use cases that you have.
That sounds a lot like everyone's favorite word right now, context. Having that context, localized, private copy, specific, living within the bounds of your VPC at your security discretion and rules. That sounds like a pretty compelling use case. Like really hard to not want to go and use this.
Yeah, I mean, something we say is that like we bring the model to you and not the other way around. Your data stays within your environment, and it's really just your own model. Like own your own model.
But what we've been thinking about over here as well is that as this model starts to become more relevant to your business, starts to really understand your software business, you don't want that to leave your security boundary. Like we shouldn't have access to your data, and that's why we're
And
happy.
you don't.
Exactly. And so like the more this becomes intelligence, the more that becomes more critical.
And what also becomes critical is just the ability for customers to get that time back, to not have to go through. And to your point, I got a message a little bit ago, locking on unit testing and not having to go through and spend the cycles in doing that, and not having to lose that context. That's huge.
Yeah, when I think about one of the things that saves time for customers and for software engineering, it's documentation. Can Poolside help with that?
Absolutely. So I normally use Poolside for a couple of things. One is when I'm an engineer and I want to figure out what's going on in this code base, that helps me right away. The second thing is documenting my code. I as a developer have always hated documenting. Like, I mean, who hasn't? Right?
Yeah, I used to be a software engineer. This would have made my life so much easier.
Yeah, that seems to be a pretty consistent theme this week. This would have been a lot better, a couple of years ago. But there's a great question for the chat, and I feel super compelled to pull it up. Because Poolside fine-tunes, does it scale economically down to a small group of, say, a handful of developers, compared to a large environment with tons of devs that could either spread the cost over more code that's being produced, or how does that work?
So let me talk a little bit about fine-tuning. So there's a couple of different fine-tuning techniques that we do. It happens both on code completion as well as in chat. So firstly, we will fine-tune based off of your code. So Poolside, the model, will ingest the code, so that way it's delivering more relevant results. When I think about relevancy, I'm thinking about both fine-tuning, so actually changing the weights of the model, as well as RAG, those two things together. But then there's a second element over here, which is fine-tuning based off of user behavior. So for example, if you want to use an internal API that maybe we never knew about, the more you start to suggest that internal API, the more Poolside is going to learn from that interaction as well. And so over time, this intelligence starts to understand how your business works, and it understands the context as well.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I love that you bring in this understanding, but you're not forgetting about security at all.
That's it's commendable. Before we get to a point where I want to make sure that you have enough time to give some next steps and guidance, one last question for the chat. Speaking of getting time back, are there plans to be able to quantify the amount of time that's saved by using this? Think so?
Definitely. So one of the things of having this as part of Bedrock, like you have full access to all the metrics that we would normally collect, right? So you have full access to see the time value. When we fine tune, we'll show you the evals of the difference between pre and post fine tuning. So all of that happens over time, but all of that is available to you as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even outside of coding, right? Like we're on Bedrock, it's all serverless. You don't have to think about any of the server management, etc.
Yeah.
And so that's also a time save in and of itself.
Yeah, it's giving so much time back to developers and software engineering organizations to focus on other things and helping them be more productive faster. So I love it. Thanks so much for telling us all about Poolside. It'll be in Bedrock. Where do you want folks to go?
Well, it's coming soon, so when it comes, you'll know.
Okay, awesome. All right, and that's all the time that we have for this segment. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with more.